So your insurance policy ended. Seems pretty straightforward, right? Well, it turns out how it ended is a detail most of us get wrong, and that one little mistake can end up costing you a fortune in higher premiums down the road. Today, we are going to clear up one of the biggest and, yeah, most expensive misunderstandings in the world of insurance.
Okay, so just think back for a second. The last time you switched insurance companies, or maybe a policy just ended, what actually happened? Was it a lapse? Did you just kind of forget to pay the bill? Or was it a cancellation? Did you actively call them up and say, hey, I'm out of here? Or maybe they were the ones who told you they were done.
Or what about a non-renewal? Did the policy just kind of run its course, hit its end date, and that was that? Now look, these might sound like they're just different words for the same thing, but trust me, in the eyes of an insurance company, they are worlds apart.
And that right there, that's the absolute heart of what we're talking about today. The difference between these three terms has serious financial consequences. We're talking about everything from your future rates to whether you can even get coverage at all. All right, let's get our definitions straight. We are going to break down each of these three misunderstood ways a policy can end, one by one, so you can see exactly what they mean for your insurance record.
First up, let's talk about a policy lapse. Now, think of this one as a passive event. It happens when you simply miss a payment, the grace period they give you runs out, and poof, your coverage just stops. You didn't actually ask for it to end, but your inaction is what caused it. A lapse is almost always a mistake, right? You forgot the bill was due, maybe your credit card expired. The key thing here is there's no formal request to end it. The policy just dissolves. And that creates a super dangerous gap in your coverage. If you have an accident during that gap, you are completely on your own.
And to an insurer, this is a major red flag. A lapse screams unpredictability, maybe a lack of reliability. That is exactly why it's flagged as a high-risk event, and it will absolutely follow you when you go to apply for your next policy.
Okay, next up, cancellation. Now, unlike a lapse, a cancellation is an active decision. It is an intentional, formal termination of your policy before it was supposed to naturally expire. Now, this can be started by you. Maybe you sold your car and don't need the insurance anymore. But it can also be started by the insurer, and they might cancel you for pretty serious reasons, like if you stopped paying, committed fraud, or if your risk profile suddenly changed in a big way. The most important part is that this is a documented event. It gets officially recorded in your permanent insurance history. And because of that, especially if the insurance company is the one who pulled the plug, a cancellation is also considered a high-risk event. Future insurers are going to see that on your record, and you can bet they'll want to know exactly why it happened before they even think about offering you a policy. And finally, we get to non-renewal. This one's totally different. A non-renewal means your policy completes its full paid-for term. It just isn't extended for another year. Your coverage stays active right up until the very last day. No gaps.
An insurer might choose not to renew you for business reasons. Honestly, maybe they're pulling out of your state, or maybe you've had just a few too many claims for their comfort. But here's the good news. It is way less damaging to your record than a lapse or a cancellation. So while it's not ideal, it's really only viewed as a medium risk event. Yeah, you'll have to shop around for new insurance, but it just doesn't carry that same heavy stigma as the other two.
Okay, now for the showdown. Let's put all three of these side by side so the differences become crystal clear. And paying attention here is how you can save yourself from some really serious and costly mistakes. When you see them all laid out like this, the differences really pop, don't they? Notice that both lapses and cancellations can happen abruptly, right in the middle of a policy term, which can leave you in a real bind. Non-renewal, though, that only happens at the end. But the most critical difference might be intent. A lapse is just unintentional carelessness, while the other two are deliberate choices. This is exactly why insurers see them so differently, and why you really can't use these terms interchangeably.
All right, let's get to the bottom line. What does all of this actually mean for your wallet? How does each one of these events really affect what you're going to pay for insurance in the future?
And honestly, it's not even close. A lapse is the biggest red flag you can have. It's going to have the highest impact on your future premiums because insurers just see it as irresponsible. A cancellation is next, still a huge concern for them. And a non-renewal, while you'd rather avoid it, is the least damaging of the three. At the end of the day, what insurers value most is continuity. And this quote really just says it all, doesn't it? You can't just assume your coverage is fine or that missing one little payment is no big deal. The insurance world runs on documented history and on demonstrated reliability. So, the big question is, how do you avoid all these pitfalls and protect your record? Well, we've put together a simple 4-step playbook to keep you safe, insurable, and paying a fair price. The number one thing is to be proactive. First, prevent lapses. Seriously, just set up automatic payments. It is the easiest fix in the world. Second, cancel smartly. Never, ever cancel your old policy until your new coverage is already active and confirmed. No gaps. Ever. Third, act on those notices. If you get a non-renewal letter, treat it like an urgent deadline to start shopping. And finally, number 4, the golden rule of insurance. Always, always aim for a continuous, uninterrupted history. And that, right there, is the key takeaway from all of this. Your insurance record isn't just about your driving or claims history. It's also a story about your financial discipline and how reliable you are. And a huge part of that story is how your policies end. By understanding the real difference between a lapse, a cancellation, and a non-renewal, you are now in control of that narrative. So the question is, what will your next chapter say about you?